On January 3, 2026, around 2 in the morning, inside a heavily curtained room in Florida, the only light came from multiple screens glowing in the darkness. Sitting in front of them was the most powerful man on earth, U.S. President Donald Trump. He was not watching a movie or relaxing with snacks. What he was seeing was a live military feed. American forces were attacking a house located thousands of miles away in Caracas, the capital of Venezuela. Inside that house, President Nicolás Maduro was asleep, completely unaware that within minutes he would be captured. Earlier, U.S. helicopters had crossed into Venezuelan airspace, flying barely 100 feet above the ocean to avoid radar detection. At the same time, a cyber operation disrupted the electricity supply in Caracas, throwing the city into darkness. Soon after, Delta Force commandos descended from helicopters using ropes, landing directly on the roof of Maduro's residence. Moving silently, they entered through a bedroom window where Maduro was sleeping. He woke up and ran toward his steel-reinforced safe room, but the soldiers chased him. He reached the door, but could not shut it in time. The commandos caught him before he could escape. Within 5 minutes, the Venezuelan president was in U.S. custody. Later, Trump told Fox News that watching the operation felt like watching television, saying it was like viewing a TV show in real time. But this was not entertainment. It was one of the most shocking military actions in modern history, where the United States captured the elected leader of another sovereign nation directly from his home. When the news broke the next morning, the world was stunned. News channels announced that Venezuela's longtime president had been removed from power in a midnight mission named Absolute Resolve, with U.S. forces arresting Maduro from the heart of Caracas. Two major questions immediately arose. Why did the U.S. take such an extreme step? And if this was possible, could any country's leader now be taken in the same way? What would that mean for global order and national sovereignty? Before continuing, friends, I want to wish you all a very happy new year. Many of you are probably setting goals and planning new beginnings, and I want to help you a little with that. Dhruv Rathi Academy is offering a mega New Year discount on all courses with flat 53% off using the code NEWYEAR53. You can enroll in the Time Management course, a focused program that teaches how to reduce procrastination, improve productivity, and increase happiness. There is also the YouTube Blueprint course, where everything learned in a decade of content creation is shared to help you build a part-time or full-time career. And there is the Master AI Chatbots course, a detailed program of over 10 hours covering both theory and practical skills. Links are in the description and QR code. Now let's return to the topic. This mission to capture a sitting president was not planned overnight. Preparations began months earlier. In August 2025, while the world believed everything was normal, the CIA secretly sent a small team into Venezuela to monitor Maduro's movements, including where he stayed, where he traveled, what he ate, what he wore, and even details about his pets. Every routine was tracked. In addition, the CIA had an insider inside the Venezuelan government who shared real-time information about Maduro's location. This was extremely risky because the agents had no diplomatic protection. If they were caught, the U.S. could not officially intervene. Just like in spy films, groundwork was laid carefully while waiting for the right moment. In November 2025, Trump spoke to Maduro on the phone and told him to step down and surrender control of the country, saying it would be best for him. This was essentially an ultimatum. Maduro refused. Later, Secretary of State Marco Rubio stated that very generous offers were made to avoid this situation, but Maduro rejected them. After this refusal, the operation moved into its final phase. In Kentucky, U.S. forces built a full replica of Maduro's home where Delta Force practiced repeatedly. Fighter jets, naval aircraft, and surveillance drones were positioned around Venezuela. In early December, the White House believed Maduro's security network was weak, but that assessment turned out to be incorrect. On Christmas Day, Trump officially approved the mission, believing that many Venezuelan soldiers would be on leave during the holidays. However, bad weather delayed the plan. The military waited for better conditions. Finally, on January 2nd, When weather improved, Trump gave the final approval late at night. Immediately after the order, over 150 military aircraft took off from 20 different bases. Cyber units cut electricity to Caracas, plunging the city into darkness. Airstrikes destroyed radar and air defense systems around the capital, so helicopters could enter safely. During these attacks, 40 people lost their lives. Flying extremely low over the sea, the helicopters reached Maduro's compound around 2 in the morning. Guards opened fire, and one helicopter was hit, but continued flying. Commandos blasted into the building and reached Maduro within minutes. He was sleeping beside his wife, Celia Flores. When he saw the soldiers, he ran toward his safe room, but he was caught before he could secure himself inside. Within 5 minutes of entering the building, U.S. forces had captured the Venezuelan president. He was taken by helicopter to the USS Iwo Jima, then flown to Guantanamo Bay, and later transferred to an airbase in New York. Photos were released showing a foreign president in chains on American soil. Supporters of Trump claimed the action was taken because Maduro was a dictator and to restore democracy and human rights. Trump said the mission was linked to drug trafficking. But many analysts argue the true motivation was oil. Venezuela holds the world's largest proven oil reserves, more than Saudi Arabia, Iran, and even the United States. Oil was discovered there in the early 20th century, and by the late 1920s, Venezuela was one of the top producers globally. U.S. oil companies operated there heavily because Venezuelan crude is heavier and used to produce diesel, asphalt, and industrial fuel. Many U.S. refineries were designed specifically for Venezuelan oil. In 1976, Venezuela created its own state oil company, and relations were still fine. Problems began when Hugo Chavez became president and nationalized the oil industry. Laws were passed declaring state ownership of all oil reserves, forcing foreign companies to leave. U.S. corporations pressured Washington to respond. In 2002, the U.S. supported a coup attempt against Chavez, but it failed. Sanctions followed and continued for years. After Chavez died, Maduro took over, and during Trump's earlier presidency, Venezuelan oil exports were blocked, and other nations were pressured not to buy it. Today, Venezuela produces far less oil, but still owns enormous reserves. Trump later said Venezuela had stolen oil from America by nationalizing its own resources and announced that U.S. companies would now invest and rebuild Venezuelan infrastructure. But critics argue Venezuela simply reclaimed its own assets. Officially, Maduro and his wife were charged in U.S. courts with drug trafficking and weapons offenses. However, experts say Venezuela is not a major drug producer, and most cocaine passing through it goes to Europe, not the U.S. Major drug routes to America pass through Colombia, Guatemala, and Mexico. Venezuela does not even have a Pacific coastline, which is the primary trafficking route. Fentanyl, the biggest cause of drug deaths in the U.S., comes mainly from Mexico, with chemicals sourced from China, and Venezuela plays no role in that trade. This raised doubts about drug charges being the real reason for the operation. Just days before the raid, Maduro said the U.S. could not accuse Venezuela of nuclear weapons like it did with Iraq, so it created drug allegations instead. Many recall that Iraq was invaded based on false claims of weapons of mass destruction, leading to massive loss of life. At the same time, Trump had pardoned leaders from countries aligned with U.S. interests who were convicted of major drug crimes. This suggested political interests, not justice, shaped decisions. After the operation, many countries condemned the action, calling it a threat to international law and sovereignty. The UN Secretary General said it violated the UN Charter. Nations across Europe, Latin America, and Asia warned that this set a dangerous precedent. Trump, however, threatened more countries, including Colombia, Cuba, and even spoke again about taking Greenland. He also warned India over buying Russian oil. Meanwhile, Indian leadership avoided openly criticizing him. Legally, the operation violated both international law and U.S. constitutional law, which requires congressional approval for war. Trump did not seek it, claiming it was a law enforcement action, not war. Critics argue that massive airstrikes, cyber attacks, and civilian deaths cannot be described as simple arrests. Under the UN Charter, nations are prohibited from using force against other sovereign states. But because the US holds veto power in the Security Council, accountability is unlikely. Many fear that if powerful nations act this way, others like China or Russia may follow, leading to a world where strength replaces law, and global conflict becomes more likely. Regardless of opinions about Maduro's leadership, abducting a president from his home at night without international legal process, especially to gain control over national resources, cannot be called justice. Some also believe political scandals, including the Epstein files that mention Trump, may have influenced the timing of the operation, as attention was shifting away from domestic controversies.